Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She toasted to freedom while still wearing her wedding ring. That was the exact moment I realized I wasn't her husband anymore. Just a placeholder, a seat filler in her version of life. And I was still dumb enough to bring wine to the table. It was her cousin's birthday. Nothing fancy. Just a dozen people in her aunt's backyard with folding chairs, paper plates, and a lot of cheap champagne. I wasn't even supposed to be there. Clarice told me I could skip it. It's all her side anyway. You'd be bored. But I came because I always came. I always tried. She was wearing that green dress. The one I bought her for our 4th anniversary. I told her once it made her look like spring that night. It made her look like someone I didn't recognize. Everyone was taking turns giving lighthearted toasts, stories from childhood, jokes, memories. Clarice stood up, glass in hand, and said to making better choices starting tomorrow. Laughter, cheers. Someone whistled. Then she looked right at me and added, I regret every single day I've wasted playing the perfect wife. Another laugh, but not from me. Her uncle said, Clarice, come on. She shrugged, sipped, and muttered, What? It's true. I didn't say a word. I didn't storm out. I just sat there, swallowed it like always. On the drive home, she didn't speak. Neither did I. She took off her heels the second we got through the door and tossed them into the laundry basket like I wasn't standing 2 feet away. Then she looked at me like I was a houseplant that needed watering or throwing out. Why are you looking at me like that? I said. I didn't know you hated being married. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please stop being dramatic. You're always so sensitive. It's exhausting. And that word, exhausting, broke something in me. I went to bed fully dressed. I stared at the ceiling while she scrolled on her phone beside me. Not once did she turn to me. Not once did she apologize. But I didn't cry. No, I waited until the next morning. I let her sleep in, made her coffee. I even folded the laundry. Then, as she walked into the kitchen, still yawning, I handed her an envelope with a note inside. It read, You regret every day with me. Try one without me. And I walked out. When I left, I expected yelling or maybe a dozen missed calls. At the very least, a text saying, You're overreacting. That would have been normal for Clarice. She always needed to have the last word to win the argument, to make me feel small and foolish for expressing hurt like a child throwing a tantrum. But that morning, silence. I stayed at a cheap motel near a highway exit 2 towns over. The kind of place that smelled like mildew and forgotten dreams. I didn't sleep much. I lay on the spring-poked mattress with the envelope I'd left her burned into my brain. I replayed her toast over and over again like a broken record of humiliation. I regret every single day. Her words echoed louder than the traffic outside my window. At 9:12 a.m., I checked my phone. No notifications. 10:43. Still nothing. By noon, I convinced myself maybe she hadn't read the note. Maybe she was in shock. Or maybe, and this was the part I hated admitting, maybe she just didn't care. Curiosity got the better of me. I drove back to the neighborhood, parked across the street from our house. Not close, not obvious, just far enough to watch without being seen. Her car was still there. So was the box of old Christmas decorations I told her 3 times I'd put in the attic. Still on the porch at 2:04 p.m., she stepped outside. No tears, no robe, no disheveled hair. Clarice looked fine, comfortable even. She was dressed, phone in hand, laughing at something she read. Then she walked back in. No panic, no search party, no sign she had even noticed I was gone. I don't know what I expected. Some dramatic scene where she realized she'd gone too far, where she sobbed into the couch cushions, begging me to come home. Instead, she looked like a woman who had just returned from yoga and had brunch plans. I went back to the motel, feeling more invisible than ever. That night, I didn't sleep again. But I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the Notes app and wrote down every moment over the past year where I felt unwanted, every sarcastic remark, every cold shoulder, every time she forgot something important to me and blamed it on being too busy. The list was long, but the next morning everything changed. At 6:17 a.m., my phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer, but when I did, it wasn't Clarice. It was her boss. And what he said shattered everything I thought I understood about my wife. When I answered the call from the unknown number, I expected some kind of scam, or maybe someone who found my wallet. Instead, I got the one voice I never thought would say my name outside of quarterly evaluations. Clarice's boss, Gerald. He cleared his throat like he regretted dialing, then asked, "Are you okay, Mason?" That caught me off guard. I didn't even know he had my number. I said I was fine, which was a lie, and asked why he was calling me. He hesitated. Then he said something that twisted my stomach into a knot. She didn't show up for work. She called in sick, but something felt off. I only called because she left her tablet in the office yesterday, and I opened it. I felt my heart start racing. He wasn't just calling to return lost property. He continued slowly, carefully. "Look, I know this crosses lines, but what I saw, it wasn't just work files. It was personal messages, explicit ones with someone named T. A lot of them. I asked him to stop. He didn't. He told me there were videos, not professional ones. And one of them was filmed in our bedroom while I was away visiting my mom 2 months ago. Same sheets, same pillow. I felt like my ribcage was caving in. Gerald swore he didn't watch more than a few seconds. He said he just wanted to give me a heads up because, and I quote, "You always looked like you deserved better than what she said about you." That part stung even more. What she said, how much of my humiliation had spilled beyond our home. After the call, I sat motionless on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the cracked wallpaper. My mind raced. I tried to remember every business trip she said she took. Every late night she blamed on meetings. Suddenly, they all blurred together. Stories that never made sense, but I never questioned because I trusted her more than I trusted my own instincts. I didn't cry. Not then. Instead, I grabbed my car keys and drove aimlessly for an hour, not knowing where I was going, until I found myself parked in front of her office building. That's when I saw it. Her car. So much for being sick. I waited. 15 minutes later, she came out looking nervous, glancing over her shoulder like someone being followed. Maybe she already knew Gerald had called. Maybe she just felt exposed. But what happened next wasn't something I could have predicted, because the man who walked out behind her, laughing and placing his hand low on her back, wasn't just some stranger. He was her ex. And he had no idea I was still in the picture. I didn't confront them right away. I wanted to. God, did I want to. My hand was already halfway out the door when I stopped myself. I knew if I walked over like some wounded husband demanding answers, it would make everything worse. I'd get a smirk from him and an eye roll from her. No, I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I watched, observed, memorized every gesture between them. His fingers lingered on her back too long. She didn't pull away. They didn't look like coworkers or even exes catching up. They looked like something that had never ended. She laughed louder than I'd heard her laugh in years. It wasn't the kind she gave me at home. The tight, polite kind that ended in silence. No, this was open, careless, free. It hit me hard how long she'd been wearing that version of herself for someone else. Not me. They got in his car. I followed at a distance. My hands sweating on the wheel, my heart hammering. I didn't even know what I'd do if they caught me tailing them. I just couldn't stop. They ended up at a cafe downtown, one of those artsy, low-lit places we used to go to when we first dated. She used to say it felt like our place. Now it was their place. I watched from the lot across the street. 2 lattes, 2 people sitting way too close for friendly. At one point, she reached over and touched his wrist. That was it. The same move she used to do to me when she wanted to say, "I missed you," without using words. I sat there for over an hour watching them share something I no longer recognized. Then I left, drove back to the motel, didn't sleep, couldn't eat. I replayed everything. Her toast at the party, the note I left, the silence, her fake sick call, the boss's voice, the cafe, the wrist touch. Over and over like I was watching some horror movie version of my life. And the next morning, I did something I never thought I would. I messaged her sister, Emily. Clarice had always said Emily was nosy. Too blunt. Never knew when to shut up, but that's exactly why I messaged her. Because if anyone would tell me the truth without sugarcoating it, it was her. I just wrote, I need to know if Clarice has been seeing someone. Please don't lie to protect her. The reply came faster than I expected. 3 dots, then a wall of text. She didn't just confirm it. She named him Travis, her high school ex, the same guy she used to say was a mistake she'd never repeat. Emily told me it had been going on for months, that the family suspected it, but no one said anything because you were still trying. Still trying. Like that was something to be ashamed of. I thanked her, closed my phone, and just sat in the dark for a long time. I wasn't ready to confront Clarice yet, but Travis, he was about to find out exactly how done I really was. I knew where Travis worked. He managed a warehouse on the edge of town. Clarice used to complain about how boring he was, how his life revolved around forklifts and Friday bar tabs. Yet here he was back in her life, grinning behind my back while I picked up her dry cleaning and sorted her prescriptions. I didn't want to show up unannounced and risk doing something stupid. So I sent him a message, short, cold, and without drama. We should talk man to man. You know why? He replied within 10 minutes. Didn't expect you to find out this fast, but yeah, sure, I'm free after 6. No apology, no denial, just confirmation. Like cheating with my wife was some appointment we'd both agreed to. I waited at the diner near his job, the same one where Clarice and I used to get pancakes after late movies. He arrived in his dented pickup, walked in like nothing bothered him, and sat across from me with that smug calm of a guy who thinks he's already won. He didn't even pretend to feel bad. Said Clarice reached out to him, not the other way around. That she started texting him again after some fight you two had last fall. Said she talked about me like I was furniture. Always there, always in the way. I asked him if they slept together in my house. He didn't lie, just shrugged and said, not like you were using it. Something cracked in me. I stood up. The waitress flinched, thinking it was about to get ugly. But I didn't yell, didn't punch him. I just looked him in the eye and said, you can keep her, but don't expect to keep what she took from me. Then I left him with the check. Back in my car, I made a call I never thought I'd make. I called my bank, asked to speak to a fraud specialist. Because Clarice hadn't just been sleeping around. She had access to our joint accounts. And the moment I said her name, the guy on the line paused and said, actually, there was a flagged transaction yesterday. Thousands withdrawn. A new account set up. My name nowhere on it. She was planning something fast. I drove back to the house before I could think too hard. I needed answers, proof, maybe even confrontation. But when I opened the door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. And then I saw it. The envelope on the kitchen table. Same size, same paper. Inside was a note written in her handwriting. If you're reading this, you already know she was gone. When I stood in that empty kitchen with her note in my hands, it felt like every breath I took was borrowed. My own home didn't even feel like mine anymore. The note was only one line, no apology, no explanation. Just, if you're reading this, you already know. What exactly did I already know? That she emptied our account? That she had run off with her ex? That she never really intended to say goodbye in person? I opened every drawer, every cabinet, like I'd find some piece of her conscience folded up behind the silverware. Instead, I found gaps. Her favorite mug was gone. The toothbrush I'd bought her last month was missing. The scarf I gave her for Christmas, the one she pretended to love, wasn't hanging by the door. She had taken the parts of herself she wanted and left the bones of our life behind like clutter she didn't want to carry. I went into our bedroom and froze. My closet looked untouched, but hers was empty. Not like packed in a rush empty. No, it was surgical. Precise. She'd been planning this. She must have been moving things out little by little, right under my nose. I sat on the bed, staring at the space where her shoes used to line up. And that's when I noticed something strange. A plastic bag tucked between the mattress and headboard. I pulled it out. Inside were crumpled receipts, printouts, and an envelope addressed to someone named Mrs. Holloway. That's not her name, but my last name, Holloway, was on it. I opened the envelope. Inside was a temporary driver's license from another state issued 2 weeks ago. A new identity, Clarice Holloway. Except it wasn't my Clarice. It had her face, but not her full name. She dropped her middle name and replaced it with a fake one. It wasn't just a getaway. It was a reset. That was when it hit me. She hadn't just left me. She had used me. My last name, my resources, my loyalty. All to build a new version of herself. One that didn't include me at all. And worse, she'd already started rewriting the story, positioning herself somewhere new as someone else. The phone rang again. Blocked number. I hesitated but picked up. The voice on the other end was a woman I didn't recognize. She said, "I know you don't know me, but I met your wife or ex. I guess she's been staying with my brother, and I thought you should know what she told him." There was a pause. Then she added, "She said you were dangerous, that she had to escape." My heart dropped into a pit I didn't know existed. Now, not only was I abandoned, I was being painted as the villain. That call haunted me more than any fight we'd ever had. The woman on the line, a stranger, said Clarice had been staying at her brother's place, claiming she had escaped an abusive husband. She described me as unhinged, manipulative, the kind of guy who hides behind flowers and fake kindness. That one hit hard. I was the guy who made her tea when she had cramps, who took night shifts when her mom was sick, who never once raised my voice even when she weaponized silence like a knife. I asked the woman her name. Monica. She didn't sound like she was trying to stir trouble. She sounded confused. Said Clarice barely talked about the past, but mentioned I controlled everything. That I had locked her out of accounts, tracked her phone, and once threatened to vanish if she didn't behave. None of that was true. None. But it didn't matter because she told the story first. And I knew from experience, the first version people hear is usually the one they believe. I hung up shaking. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was character assassination. She hadn't just left. She'd rewritten our story. Cast herself as the victim and me as the monster. And the worst part, she was getting away with it. I spent that night doing something I never imagined. I gathered every piece of proof I had. Screenshots, bank transfers, texts, voice memos she'd left during good times, ones where she joked about playing the sad wife to get out of commitments, photos of us laughing on days she now claimed were full of fear. I organized it all in a private folder, just in case I'd need it to protect myself. At 3:27 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was an email from Clarice. No subject, no greeting, just 3 sentences. "You made me do this. I had to protect myself. Please don't make this harder than it already is." That was it. No details, no apology, no effort to undo the damage. I stared at the screen until the sun came up. That day, I did something I never thought I'd have the stomach for. I contacted a lawyer. Not for divorce. I knew that part was inevitable. But to protect my name, my finances, my future. She wanted to walk away clean, but she wasn't walking away with my life. I had one more thing to do, the hardest part. I had to call her parents because they were next on her list, and I wasn't going to let her poison them too. Calling her parents was the last thing I wanted to do. But after everything Clarice had said, the lies she'd planted like weeds, I couldn't risk staying silent. Her father picked up, gruff, old-fashioned, never liked me much. But the moment I mentioned Clarice's claims, there was a pause, then a deep sigh, The kind that comes from someone who's heard too many half-truths and is tired of pretending they're whole. He said, "She told us you were unstable, that you left her stranded, but we knew something wasn't right. She's been different." Her mom got on the phone next. I expected judgment. Instead, she asked if I was eating. That simple human question broke me more than any of Clarice's betrayals. I told them everything, not out of spite, but because I needed someone, anyone, to see the full picture before she rewrote it completely. A week passed, then another. I filed the legal papers, froze our joint accounts, blocked her number. The silence was different now, not empty, but clean, peaceful. I started sleeping again, cooking for myself, rediscovering the quiet without needing to brace for the next emotional minefield. Then came the letter handwritten from Clarice. She said she regretted how she handled everything, that she'd panicked, that Travis wasn't what she thought, and things had already ended between them. She said, "I didn't deserve what happened." And at the bottom of the page, the part that stayed with me was this: "Maybe you weren't perfect, but you were real, and I missed that." I didn't reply. Forgiveness doesn't always come with an invitation. Some betrayals aren't bridges to cross. They're signs you were walking toward the wrong future all along. Now, months later, I'm not angry, not bitter. Kept my name, my peace, my truth. And that's more than she can say. Thanks for watching the full story here on Reddit Confessions. Which moment in this story hit you the hardest? The toast, the X, or the letter at the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable real-life stories like this.